All right, now these are the last few weeks before the big day in the U.S. elections. The presidential contenders Donald Trump and Joe Biden held separate town halls on Thursday after the second presidential debate was cancelled. U.S. President Donald Trump appeared in a town hall in Miami, which was televised by NBC News, where he was grilled over his performance in the COVID-19 pandemic. He was also asked some pretty tough questions over his tax controversy, amongst a host of other issues. When asked whether he took a coronavirus test on the day of the first debate like he was supposed to, Donald Trump was pretty evasive. After being pressed many times, he finally said that he probably may have taken a test on the day of the opening debate, but he also went on to state that he does not remember. The Commission on the Presidential Debates asked the two candidates to take tests before they arrived. He had tested positive for the coronavirus just 2 days after the first debate.
I probably did, and I took a test the day before and the day before, and I was always in great shape, and I was in great shape for the debate, and it was only after the debate, like a period of time after the debate, that I said, that's interesting, and they took a test and it tested positive.
So just to button it up, do you take a test every single day?
No, but I take a lot of tests.
Okay, and you don't know if you took a test the day of the debate?
Possibly I did, possibly I didn't, but you know the doctor is very accurate information.
Now, at the NBC town hall, Donald Trump was questioned about the reports on his tax avoidance and who is it that he owes about $421 million to which he said that he does not owe Russia any money and that he is extremely under-levered. On his Supreme Court nomination, Donald Trump said that he would like to see a brilliant jurist make a decision at the top court, and that is why he had chosen Amy Coney Barrett to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Fielding an intense line of questioning, Donald Trump also condemned white supremacists at the town hall. Donald Trump did not explicitly condemn the white supremacists and the violent right-wing groups, remember, during the first debate, even when he had repeatedly been asked to do so by the moderator at that time.
You asked some follow-up questions. Who specifically? A couple of days later, on a different show, you denounced white supremacy.
My
question to you is,
you've done this to me and everybody.
Why does it seem like
I denounced white supremacy? Okay,
you did
I've
2 days
denounced
later.
white supremacy for years, but you always do it. You always start off with a question. You didn't ask Joe Biden whether or not he denounces Antifa. I watched him on the same basic show with Lester Holt, and he was asking questions like Biden was a child.
All right, so that was Donald Trump, where he said that he's been denouncing the white supremacists for many years. Now, Trump's Democrat rival Joe Biden appeared in a competing town hall in Philadelphia, which was aired by another news network, ABC News. Now, attacking Trump's coronavirus response, Biden said that Donald Trump had refused to boost efforts to combat the COVID-19 infection even after he had tested positive, accusing the president of doing nothing to improve the conditions of the millions of common Americans. All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what has in fact been happening with these town halls that have been held, we joined in by Jagriti, the way who's been tracking all the developments very closely for us from Washington, D.C. Now, Jagriti, let me begin by asking you this. There was supposed to be a presidential debate. That, of course, did not take place. Instead, we had these town halls. What was the impression that was gained by the American people in terms of the vision and also in terms of the performance that Donald Trump has so far put forth in his dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, one of the challenges the American people had is who they were going to watch, because both town halls were happening at exactly the same time, something that had was being criticised widely because Americans would have to, as they say, choose or switch between channels. And both town halls sort of went along the lines, reflected the president, both town halls reflected the personalities of both candidates in many ways. Joe Biden was very policy-centred, often gave very long, meandering answers. Donald Trump was punchy, combative, engaged with the moderator, sort of criticised the moderator for asking tough questions about his failure to fully categorically denounce white supremacy, as you were mentioning. many Americans have already made up their mind as to who they're going to vote for. Many Americans have already voted as early voting gets underway in many states across the country. So it's unlikely, many people are suggesting, that these debates are going to change anyone's mind. An interesting comment that I saw from a journalist was that actually, will these debates persuade anyone to actually go out and vote who may not have been considering voting in the first place? That remains to be seen. Also, the ratings that both town hall events have garnered, that's going to be interesting to see how many people, how many Americans actually watched both debates. It certainly wasn't as fiery and combative as that first presidential debate when both candidates were in the same room talking over each other. But nonetheless, there were some sort of key issues, election issues, that were touched upon in both of those events.
Absolutely, indeed. And one of the key issues that actually stood out was the fact that Donald Trump did go on and in some way, at least in a very lukewarm manner, condemn the white supremacists. Is this a break from the past where Donald Trump has never actually done it?
Well, President Trump has condemned white supremacy. He has been critical of the KKK, for example, but the problem with the way he does it is that he doesn't categorically do it when he's first asked. He's very evasive when he's first asked, which then results to more probing, which then he has to qualify his answers. That is sort of what happened in 2017 with Charlottesville, where he said there were fine people on both sides, and he had to clarify what he meant, that he wasn't talking about he wasn't talking about sort of far right groups. He was talking about those people who'd come to protest against the toppling of a Confederate statue there. So this is the problem that Donald Trump faces. And in this town hall, he was asked about that moment in that first presidential debate where he didn't fully condemn white supremacy. And he got very heated and he said, "You always ask me this. I denounce white supremacy." He did say that. Mm-hmm. He was then asked about the conspiracy theory QAnon, which he then, again, true to style, sort of failed to denounce categorically. He said he didn't know very much about it, even though the moderator had explained it to him. So this is what President Trump did in this particular debate. The other issue that was important was the pandemic, which both candidates talked about. Joe Biden obviously attacking the US response, President Trump defending it. He talked about his own experiences. He couldn't remember whether he was tested before that first presidential debate, but Joe Biden had his own tough questions to ask. He was asked difficult questions about fracking.
Right.
And he had that tightrope to balance where he had to say he doesn't believe in banning fracking, but the left and the Democrats really are pushing for, a very anti-fracking. So he has to sort of balance that, the wings within his party and their different views on issues like fracking. He had to answer questions on racial injustice. He had to answer questions on his history with the crime bill that he helped to put forward in the 1994 crime bill, which he said it was a mistake to support. So, both candidates had to answer tough questions from voters.
Absolutely, indeed. And just before we let you go, Jagriti, the fact of the matter is just a fortnight ago, Donald Trump had tested positive for the coronavirus infection that had called into question his entire strategy and handling of the pandemic. But now that he's back, are we to now see that the entire controversy, or rather the entire incident of Donald Trump testing positive for coronavirus, is now behind him, and this may not hamper his chances on the big day on the 3rd of November?
Well, look, it's clearly not behind him, because this was one of the first questions he was asked in his town hall debate. The pandemic is front and centre in both town halls. So the pandemic is very much not behind either candidate, however much President Trump is saying we are rounding the corner, something he repeated in that town hall today, that rosy picture that he has been criticised for putting forward and that he continues to advocate for. The pandemic is clearly going to be front and centre in how people vote. As I say, many Americans have voted early. Many Americans want to avoid long queues packed in tightly as they're trying to get their vote in on election day itself. Mail-in voting expanded because of the pandemic, again, in many states. So the pandemic is front and centre of the debates, clearly for the election, and of course for both candidates, as we've had COVID-19 infections not only affecting the White House at the highest level with President Trump, but also the Biden-Harris campaign have had their their own circles affected by COVID-19, with Kamala Harris's communications director and a flight crew member testing positive, and just today another administrative crew member for the company that charters Joe Biden's planes, who had travelled with the former vice president earlier this week, testing positive for COVID-19 as well, although the campaign reiterates that that Joe Biden has no need to quarantine because that individual who's tested positive was always over 50 feet separated from the former vice president.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Jagrati Dave, for joining us and getting us all those insights.
Co-presented by Skoda. Simply clever.